we'll create one activity called preference activity. So what we are going to create is a new activity called preference activity. Preference activity, and inside that we'll do something. Okay, let me just explain you about preference activity first before I get into that. Sorry about that. So shared preferences is not just a concept, it is the name of a full-blown class. So what shared preferences class provides is a general framework that allows to save and retrieve persistent key value pairs of primitive data types. So just see this. Shared preferences class, it is a class, so shared preferences class. It provides a general framework that allows to save and retrieve persistent key value pair of primitive data type. That is important. So only when you want to store a key value like color this, name this, greeting this, age this, or something like that key value pair, then you should use shared preferences. What are the steps to write data inside a shared preferences? What are the steps to read the data from shared preferences? The steps to write the data to shared preferences is that first create an object from shared preferences class. And what exactly happened at this stage, let us see in the code, because that might be much easier to understand. So let me just show you the sample code here. So this one is much easier to understand. So what we are going to do here is that if you want to read from shared preferences, this is the code, just this much. Forget about all the other codes. And this is used for read from preference file. Read from preference file. And this one is write to preference file. Okay. Now let us understand this simple two-line code, how to read from a preference file and how to write from preference file. So to start with, first you have to give some name. Any name is fine. So give some name to your preference file, and I have given this one. You can give anything. Do not give .xml. It will put .xml on its own. So first you give some name to the preference file. After you give the name to preference file, if you want to read from that, then there is a method given called get shared preferences. And there you have to pass this name of the file. So what it will do is that settings is nothing but a reference to that XML file. And then settings.getString, what it does is that it looks for this key if that exists in your system. If it does not exist, then nothing. So if it exists, then get the value corresponding to that key. If it does not exist, then return some default value. This should be a string because we are reading a string. So if that key greeting exists in that XML file, get me the value corresponding to that. If that key does not exist in that XML file, then return false as the default value. So that's all it does. So very simple two-line to read the preferences. To write the preferences, again very simple. What you have to do is that same thing, get a reference to that preference file and you pass the name as pref name, and then get a editor to that. So this one is get a reference to the editor. Now once you get the reference to that editor, what you can do is that you can put your value for this key. So this is the key and this is the value you are putting inside that XML file. And once you have put, let us assume you want to put 10 different values, then all of that should come here. Editor.putString, editor.putBoolean, whatever you want to put, you can put it basically. And after that, in the end, you have to do the commit. So this will write all these things in XML file. So basically they're very simple, read and write. Now what we are going to do is that we will write a code so that we are reading a greeting in the main screen when it launches, and try to write it and save the preferences in another activity called preference activity. So let us create one preference activity and then we'll see that how it works. So what we are going to do is that we'll create one new activity called preference activity. We'll call it preference activity. We'll call it preference activity. And in the main screen, this traveler assistant activity, traveler assistant activity. This is our main screen. Here we'll try to read from preferences. So what we'll do is that we'll write the code here to read from preference file. Okay. And here we'll say write the code for write to preference file. Now in the beginning, when there is nothing in the preference file and you load this screen, there is nothing in the preference file, so it won't load anything and it will show the default value. But after you write to the preference file and then load this screen, you will see that new value which is inserted in the preference file is retrieved. So next thing what we are going to do is that write some code to see the preference file activity. And this is very straightforward and simple. So let me just show you how to do that. I have already created just a XML layout, simple XML layout like this. That preference setting, greeting, this one, set greetings, done. So this XML file, whatever I enter here, that will set as a greeting in a preference XML file, and that I will read it from traveler assistant activity here. So in this one, let us put first of code to read from the preference activity, and that will do it in on create, so that in the beginning itself it will come. Now one of the things which we have to understand is that there is a text view called main hello, and this one, and this hello TV. So if you open this XML layout, main.xml layout, we are going to show the greeting here. So in the beginning it will pull whatever is the default. If that greeting does not exist in preference XML file, then it will show the default. Otherwise whatever is there, that it will show. So this is the place we are going to see the effect. Now let us put some code here to read from the preference file. Read from the and the code to read the preference file is very simple. Just take this and put it here. Okay. We'll just format it a little bit. Okay, so that's pretty much we have to just do it. So this is pretty much what it says, that to read from the preference XML file, and then what we'll do is that set that value to text view. And what is that text view? That text view is main hello. So main hello dot set text dot char sequence, and that is str greeting. Okay. So what does this do? This just try to read from that preference file whose name is I have given as my pref file, and then set it to the main hello.this, and if it is not there, then it will say hello, welcome to TA. In addition to that, we have to create one more activity called preference activity. So let us create one activity. We'll copy it from let us see, we'll copy it from expense activity, okay, and create a new activity. So here what we are going to do is that we are going to create preference activity, okay, and let us change this preference activity for a few things. And in this preference activity, we are going to use the objects which are there in preference activity.xml, like this one. So we'll load this. So first change we need to make is this one, layout dot pref activity, this one, correct? And then we have to take care of all the buttons and text view and everything. So before that, I will just delete this thing, the old thing, and clean it little later. Now in this screen, the layout, what are the various buttons and text views? I have this one, and this one. So I need one edit text and two buttons. So go to this code, two buttons I need it, button variable. One is that set greeting, and the other one is close PT. Okay. The text view edit text, what we will use is edit text, and that is for greeting underscore et. Done. Now let us create those objects. I will just copy to make typing little faster. Not sure how much fast it becomes, but never mind. Find view by id r.id dot preference dot set greeting button, and then we'll do same for close button equals to button find view by id r.id dot preference and then close button. Okay. Now once that is done, we have to also get this object called greeting underscore et, and that is equals to this is an edit text. So edit text find view by id r.id dot pref greeting et. So now we are done for each one of these. Okay. So what is wrong here? Oh, by should be capital B, and then it should be fine. So I have got these three, and then we should not forget about adding the listener classes to those two buttons. So what we will do is that set for both of this, we'll put the listener classes dot set on click listener this semicolon, and then close underscore bt dot set on click listener this one. Got it? Now once I have done both of this, we are all set to do something. So when somebody clicks the button, either of these button, either set greeting or done button, we have to put some action. So for that, I have one on-click method which comes from implements on-click listener interface, and then here I will have to change the ID because ID of the button has changed. So let us change that ID, and put the set greeting button here, and same change the ID here, and pref dot close button, and that's it. Now once you are ready with all your buttons and edit text, you have to just put a code. This is the old one, so I don't care. Just put the code for each one of them to take care of this. So now our preference activity is ready. We have to put the code to write it to the preference file, and that will do it here, because that is when the set greeting button is clicked. Now what is the code for writing? Code for writing is very simple again. Just copy this one and put it here. And as we know that there is some formatting challenge, so don't worry about that, we'll take care. Okay. And the first thing what we'll do is that import that SharedPreferences class, and then put a string. Now here what we are going to put is that what we want to write here. We want to write here, what exactly you want to put it in the preference file. So our key is greeting, but what do you want to put? We want to put what user has set. So how do you capture? So first capture what user wants. For that what we'll do is that declare a variable called string user greeting equals to, find out from that edit text, greeting underscore et dot get text dot to string. This one will, what it will do is that it will capture what the user has entered into this edit text, and that is what I want to set it as a greeting. So that I captured and put it here, user greeting, and then it works fine. Now the other part is the preference name. So create a constant, but be careful, whatever the preference name of or XML file name you give in this activity and whatever you have given here, it should be same. So my pref file. So let us give it here as my pref file. Otherwise it will read somewhere and write somewhere. Now we are done with this one, my pref file. Okay, there is a double quotes missing. Now let us save it. So we are done with this one, but there is a couple of things more you have to do. First thing, there is a new preference activity, so we have to put it in Android manifest.xml file, and I think I have already just put it somewhere like this. So very simple, you should also do it, preference activity, and put the level little which makes sense, preference activity. Okay, so this is one point which you have to do after writing the code. Second thing what we have to do it is that we have to launch this preference activity from the main activity, that is traveler assistant activity. So why don't we go there and check out. So we have a preference menu called 13, and inside 13 we have put this one. So I have already put this preference activity dot class. So this also you should make the changes and take care of it. Now what it means is that whenever somebody will click this preference menu, the new activity, preference activity which we have developed, will start. After all of these are done, what you should do is that you should just try and run it. If there is any problem, it will barb anyway. Now see what it is coming here. Hello, welcome to TA. From where it is coming? It is coming from your traveler assistant activity, the point where you are reading the XML file. Here, see, this is the code where you are reading, and you said key, if that preference file does not have this key, please show this one, and that's what it is doing. And it is because we have not yet set the preference. So let us go ahead and set the preference, and for that what we'll do is that click the menu, click preference, force close, there is some error. Let me see what is the error happening. It says that you have not declared this file in preference activity in Android manifest.xml file, but I think I did it. Let me just check. It is saying that preference activity file has not been declared in preference activity.class. Where is the Android manifest.xml file? I think I have put it. Yeah, it is there. Preference activity. But why it is saying that unable to find explicit activity class? Android.preference.preference activity. No, that is not the name. It should look for, what is a package? Ah, it is taking, oh, there is a preference activity class in Android as well, but we do have a class called preference activity.java. So it is taking that because that is coming in the picture before that. So why don't we do one thing? We'll just rename it and say it as my preference activity, because there is a preference activity class in Android as well, and it is trying to pick up that one. So to solve this problem, the best is just rename this. I will call it my preference activity, and we'll change things accordingly, so don't worry about that. So let us delete this guy. My preference activity, everything should be fine, and the only thing which we need to worry about is Android manifest.xml file. Here it need to go as my preference activity. So there is a preference activity class in Android as well. In the system level, the system level class is there, so that class name is conflicting with our class name, so that's why I have just changed it. And then in the travel assistant activity, we have to change here as well and ask him to launch my preference activity and not the preference activity. So let us see. Now it looks fine, so why don't we go ahead and launch it. Hello, welcome to TA, because there is no preference activity file, XML file. So let us do menu, click preferences, preference, and then set greeting. So let us assume that I want to set a greeting. Hi man, just like that. And I will say set greeting, and then I will say I'm done. Okay, so it is gone. Now this one will still not come because that activity is already created. So only when it will come back again, it will show that thing. The other thing what you could do is that reading from that could be done on pause or on start or on restart. So that is another way to put it. If you want to put it inside on pause, so that reading of activity I am doing it in on create. So once it is done, it will not do it again. Now there is other way to do it to see this happening, is that put it inside some of the things like on pause, on stop, and all those things. So let us see here. The moment it goes to on stop, that is, it is covered, I will put it here. So if you want to test it from here, you have to just kill the application and come back. But if you want to do it properly, you should do it in on pause, so that the moment it does, it works fine. So it will read when it launches first time, and it will again try to read it in case somebody has changed when he moves from this screen to other screen, and try to set it. Say, hi man, it has changed. So now what happened is that last time when I set the activity, it has changed. Now if I want to change the preference again, I can go here and I can say, hey boy, just do this and set greeting, and then say done. And then you have to just go and click close this application and restart. And then it will read from the XML file again. On this one. Hey boy. So what happens is that now onwards, whenever I will launch this application, let us relaunch this application. We'll make a small change and we'll just launch it. So now if you see, welcome to TA, right? Welcome to Traveler Assistant. I made a small change and I am going to run it. See this file, now this time this was not showing. Why? Because for the value greeting, he found the value that there is already a value in the greeting in the XML file called hey boy. So now he will launch always hey boy. So this is the way you can set the preferences and use it for various purpose. Okay, so that was pretty much what I wanted to explain you. So let me just recap everything what we did. We created a preference activity.xml file. Then what we did is that we created a my preference activity class. In that we tried to store the preference what the user entered in this edit box greeting et. So whatever the user is entering in this box, we are trying to set it into the preference file. Once I set it, I am trying to read it from the main screen here. And that's pretty much preferences are there. You can use it for any purpose, and for various other applications you can use it as well. Okay. Now the next one is we'll discuss about internal storage, external storage, and SQL database. So